Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. And while on paper, it seems like it's only been about 6 weeks since I last posted an episode, in reality, in my life, it's been several months. As I explained on episode 150 earlier this year, my father passed away from pancreatic cancer. And at that point, when he was sick and going through his battle, I was recording a ton of episodes to try to get me through when the time actually came. And when it did come, I realized I needed to take a longer break to kind of be there for my family and kind of adjust to what that new normal was. And as time has passed, I've realized that I need to start bringing back to life the things that bring me joy. And one of those is this podcast, talking music with all of you and having a moment each week to share my love of music and the songs that bring me joy and hopefully bring you joy as well, and maybe introduce you to songs that you haven't heard before or haven't heard in a long, long time. That's kind of what the premise of this show has always been about. There's obviously that touch of nostalgia, but it's also going to bring in some of the newer music because I'm always digging for new music. I'm always scouring the different apps and YouTube and news sites to try to find new bands and new stuff to check out. And hopefully some of that has come across over the last 150 episodes. Now, the reason I'm doing this little piece here is kind of a transition. When I ended episode 150, I explained that I didn't know when and if I would get the itch to come back to podcasting, as I was still heavily grieving the loss of my father. And I will admit I still am now, but it's getting to a point where I'm starting to realize that he would have wanted me to continue doing the things that I love, the things that bring me joy. And I need to get back to that. So with that being said, I am looking to start a season 2 of My Weekly Mixtape with a little bit of a twist. The effort that I put into recording season 1, and I'm kind of break the fourth wall here, I spent hours and hours of free time, my evenings, my weekends, putting together these episodes, countless hours going back and forth with other podcasters and booking agents and artists to get things scheduled. I would sit down for a recording and an artist would have another commitment come up, and then the podcast would get delayed for a couple hours and I'd have to come back and start again. And I started missing out on a lot of things that are, in hindsight, extremely important to me. And that's my family, because after losing my father, I don't get that back. So what I've thought about is, how can I continue to do the thing that I love, which is My Weekly Mixtape, but also continue to be present and be there for my family whenever and however I can. And in order to do that, I've come up with this concept. I am going to, for the time being, run a series of solo My Weekly Mixtape episodes. That's right. Unfortunately, folks, you're just going to have to listen to me for the time being. Meaning, when the inspiration hits, I sit down, I hit record, and I record an episode of My Weekly Mixtape. That gives me the flexibility to work around my family's needs, because without my father, there are some needs that I need to do additionally to help my mother out that I didn't when my father was here. So with that being said, scheduling episodes with guests is a much tougher thing to do than it was a year or 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm going to continue, but I want the listeners, you people, the supporters of this show, to be involved as much as you always have. So what I've come up with is this new concept of an episode. Now, anyone that listened to Howard Stern might be familiar with Jackie the Joke Man Martling. I have a lot of his comedy CDs. I was a big fan of his stuff. And he did a skit at the end of some of his shows, and he also did this back on Howard Stern called Stump the Joke Man, where people would call in and kind of drop a joke but not the punchline, and Jackie would kind of chime in with the punchline. So this is kind of a spin and a hat tip to that. What I'm asking for in this next series of episodes is for you, the listeners, to either write in at myweeklymixtape@gmail.com or contact me on social media at My Weekly Mixtape on all the different socials, or via the My Weekly Mixtape Patreon, which is over at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape, and send in any topic, any genre, any idea that you want to hear mixtaped or playlisted by yours truly. And then what I'm going to do is load them into one of these online wheel random generators. And because I don't want to use their proprietary sound effects, I am going to essentially spin that wheel and randomly have one of your topics get selected, and I will then come up with a 10-song playlist that fits your topic off the top of my head. Completely spontaneous. It could be a complete train wreck, or I might be onto something, and it's challenging, and I'm excited to see what I can come up with. Now, there are kind of a few rules that I'm going to do with this. I ask that we keep politics and religion out of this conversation. This show has always been about a break from what you are constantly being fed on the news and on social media, the doom scrolling. This is meant to be a break from that. So I want things that are fun. I want things that are lighthearted. Obviously, if you want to do a serious topic, by all means, I'm all ears. Love songs, power ballads, breakup songs, stuff like that, totally on par. Just keep the politics and religion aside for that. I'm sure there are plenty of other political and religious podcasts you could check out for your source of that kind of content. I just kind of want to keep that away from what I'm doing here at My Weekly Mixtape. But be serious, be funny, be asinine. I am all for it. Send me those topics, and then I'm going to allow this online randomizer to choose one of these topics, and we are going to have a little bit of fun here. So now that you've got the general gist of that format, there's actually more to this than just these randomized episodes, because there are some episodes that I recorded for season 1 that I never got around to editing, that I never got around to posting. And some of those I'm also going to include in season 2. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix and match. Some solo episodes, some ones with guests, some ones with old interviews I did back on the Toon Styles days that have unfortunately fallen off the ethos when that show disappeared from the internet when we canceled our plan way back when, not knowing that when you canceled your plan with the podcast provider, your podcast went away. So there's a lot of ideas spiraling through this crazy head of mine, and I'm excited to see where they go with everybody. But again, you are all a part of this conversation with me. So I need to hear from you in order to make this work. So what I'm doing now is dropping this bonus episode as a call to action to all of you mixtapers out there. Start sending in your ideas. You can send in 1, you can send in 50. I will load this wheel up with as many ideas and topics as you send me. And this probably goes without saying, but if your topic comes up, I'll be sure to give you a shout out on the episode. And then I want to hear from you. How did I do? You could be honest. I might bomb on some of these, and that's okay because there is no right or wrong answers when it comes to music. I am looking forward to this challenge, and I hope you are looking forward to joining me on this new era of My Weekly Mixtape. Now, interviews. I am going to do my best as life slowly starts to get back to normal in this new normal for me and my family to start bringing back guests, bringing back friends of the show, bringing back the interviews and the album dives. It's just not going to be every single week. I simply don't have the time to be able to devote 8, 10, 12 hours a week in producing an episode of that caliber. However, I still want to do them and I'm still going to do them. They just won't be every single week. So by me doing this sort of pivot and sitting down to be able to produce episodes that are a little bit more off the cuff, I can still continue to quote unquote meet the My Weekly Mixtape expectation. However, as Aaron from The Itch mentioned over on the My Weekly Mixtape Discord, I'm not rebranding the show, but it's my random mixtape because I have no idea what's going to pop up on the wheel. It could be favorite power ballads. It could be, as somebody put on Instagram, the 10 greatest songs from Taco, with one of them being Putting on the Ritz. I could totally spin that. And that was Dave Zalatoris over at the Beer in Front podcast that sent that one in. I could totally spin that one because maybe I want to do an episode on tacos. Who the hell knows? I mean, you got Taco Grande by Weird Al Yankovic. I might be able to pull that off. Taco songs? That's a tough one. I also had someone over on Threads, Hutch, chime in saying Australian pub songs. I needed to ask him for clarification on that one because I don't want to embarrass myself to an entire country. That would suck. So anyway, I am excited to be back on the mic again. I have missed this so much. I know my father was telling me when things were getting bad to not put the mic down, but I needed that time over the last several months to be there for my family, to get things situated. I don't want to get deep into my personal life because a lot of it's still pretty new. The wounds are still healing, but I needed to be there for my family. And I appreciate and thank you all for understanding and simply being there for me as a human being, whether it's some of the listeners who have kept in touch with me on Discord, fellow podcasters who've not only kept in touch with me online, some of them who actually came to my father's services, which there are no words to say simply how much that meant to me, because a lot of podcasters meet virtually, and to have someone kind of cross that threshold into the quote unquote human world is just so unbelievably powerful and strong that I'm honestly at a loss for words for it. And you know, music is always going to be a part of who I am. It's in my DNA. It's in my blood. I immediately, after my father passed, started creating playlists that him and I would enjoy listening to. And I've really been enjoying those playlists over the last few months because I feel like when I'm listening to those songs, he's listening with me. And it was that really started making me think, like, how can I do this again? How can I find the time to make this happen again? If anything, I dedicated the first 150 episodes to him at the end of episode 150. But I want to be able to continue to celebrate all those musical memories that he brought to me through my childhood, through my adulthood, as well as all the amazing music memories I have with friends, I have with you listeners, I have with everybody out there, all these amazing bands that I've gotten to discover through this show, all the amazing musicians that have come on this show that I've even become friends with, some of them that keep in contact with me. I am grateful, I am thankful, and I am pumped, if you haven't heard it in my voice yet. So yes, My Weekly Mixtape is coming back in a few short weeks. I hope you're going to be there for it. The Patreon is going to relaunch officially on November 1st. It is open right now at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you could sign up. It's free. And there are tiers available, but none of them are required. Each tier offers different benefits, and I'm changing some of those benefits up. They're going to include priority chime in on upcoming topics, as well as being the guest mixtaper for an episode where I spin the random wheel and you get to choose the 10 songs in any order. And I'm going to tell you, this might not be as easy as it sounds. So think carefully. For all the people that have been part of the Patreon community since the beginning, I can't thank you enough for continuing to support the show through this entire time. It really means the world to me. So like I said, as of November 1st, the Patreon will be back up and running full force again. If you feel that you need to leave and go down to a free tier, I am not insulted in any way, shape, or form. I appreciate the support in any way, shape, or form that you provide to the show. So with that being said, I know this is a short little bonus episode, but I just didn't want new random episodes appearing and having everybody go, what the hell is happening here? What is this? This sounds different than what he was doing before. Hopefully this explains everything. I've missed all of you. I've missed our back and forth about music, and I'm excited. I've probably said the word excited way too many times in this last 15 minutes here, but I truly am stoked. Let's go with stoked instead of excited to be able to talk music with you all once again in any way, shape, or form that I can make it happen. As always, be sure to follow My Weekly Mixtape on all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. And you can email me at myweeklymixtape@gmail.com with any suggestions that you have for this wheel spin style episode. I can't wait to hear some of the crazy topics that you mixtapers are going to come up with. I am sure you're not going to let me down, and I am going to do my best not to let you down as we move forward. Thank you again for listening, and until the shows appear in the next few weeks, there are 150 other episodes that you can go back in the back catalog and give a listen to. Make sure you're caught up to date on all the My Weekly Mixtape lingo, because I'm going to be bringing it in full force in just a few short weeks here. Thank you for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.